Hello everyone, this is Benson Hobart, and today we're going to be taking a look at how have trends in life expectancy, fertility rates, and migration patterns shaped the projected population growth in Latin South America. We're going to be using data that's been collected from 2010 to 2024. Before digging too deep into these other visualizations, I wanted to take a second to provide a snapshot of the data that we're looking at. All the data on this slide is from the most recent year, so 2024. The table that's on the right-hand side has a breakdown of the names of all the countries that we are going to be analyzing, as well as their percentages in current populations. The pie chart, on the other hand, has a better visual breakdown of the distribution of population. So we see that Brazil occupies about 50% of their population, whereas Argentina, Colombia combined provide about a quarter, and then the rest of the population is made up by the other 7 countries. The visualization for life expectancy in Latin America is made up of 2 separate line graphs. The one on the bottom shows each 10 of the countries and their individual life expectancy from the span 2010 to 2022. It should be noted that 2023 and 2024 are absent simply because the database didn't have any values for those years. I wanted to include the breakdown of these 10 countries to show the diversity in ranges for these countries. However, I intentionally separated the average value to be separate from these 10 for the sake of clarity, because when it was included with those, it became a little muddled. So the overall trend that we get from it is we see a steady incline from 2010 up until 2019, and then it starts to trail off with the pandemic and then slowly start to pick back up in 2022. Moving on to migration, you'll notice that Paraguay, Uruguay, Bolivia, and Argentina are not included in this visualization. I did that intentionally because those 4 countries had migration statuses that stayed at roughly 0. So I chose to include only the countries that had more dynamic migration patterns. Here we see that countries that had positive numbers had higher rates of immigration versus countries that had negative numbers had higher rates of emigration. One year that I want to draw particular attention to is the year 2018. We see Venezuela have an emigration of almost 1.5 million, and at that same year we see other Hispanic countries such as Ecuador, Chile, Peru, and Colombia see the highest peaks of immigration that they have seen in their recent history. The key takeaway that we get from this visualization is that we have evidence which suggests that the migration that is happening within Latin South America is staying within the continent. I also found an external resource that I have at the end of this slide from the United Nations that goes on to support this claim. Here we have the breakdown of all 10 South American countries with regard to their fertility rates. Across the board, it's clear that these rates are declining. The OECD states that a country should have a fertility rate of 2.1 in order to maintain their current population. Historically, South America has had rates much higher than this, and if we look at 2010, we notice that over half of the countries have rates above this 2.1. However, it's been in recent years that many of these countries have started to dip below that 2.1 threshold. If we look at the forecasted fertility rate, some of them are a little bit more stable than others, but it's clear that they are declining. Moving on to our final visualization, here we see that despite a falling birth rate, a high rate of emigration, and a plateaued life expectancy rate, Latin South America is still forecasted to see linear growth in the next coming years. In fact, it is a little bit difficult to see, but we have an orange line here that shows the actual population of South America, the blue line representing the forecasted, but these seem to be overtaken by the gray line showing the linear trend line. On to our final visualization, we see that South America is forecasted to see linear population growth over the next coming years. The gray linear trend line shows a very low p-value, which indicates that it is statistically significant. Overall, I would agree with the prediction that they will be growing in population despite these other factors, for the reasons that their birth rate has only recently fallen below that 2.1 threshold. They are immigrating, however, they are staying within the region. And overall, they have a life expectancy rate that is higher than the majority of the world. And for these reasons, they will continue to see their population rise, at least for the near future. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.